Alright, this is going to be a very basic Mudbox tutorial just to show you some of the tools in Mudbox and how to use them to your advantage. First, when we open Mudbox up, we're going to see this welcome screen. We're going to select the human body to work with, and here you can see that our screen it looks like it's cut in half. You only see half of the person here. We need to pull it down. Now, if you've been using 3D Max, the traditional way to do that would be using the wheel on your mouse, pressing it down like a button and pulling it. Well, in Mudbox that doesn't work because these are intrinsically set up to use Maya shortcut keys. So in order to pull the character down or the viewport down, we're going to have to hit Alt on the keyboard, and then we can use that mouse button to pull it down. The next thing we're going to look at is we have across the bottom our Sculpt Tools. These give you kind of a picture representation of what happens when you select each tool. So if you select Sculpt, you can see it's highlighted here, and if you hover over it, it'll tell you a little bit about that tool. If you use the grab tool, you can see the red arrow there, and you can see that it's showing you kind of what it will do to the clay that's up here. So we're going to select grab for right now. You can select any of these tools to work with. And we're going to move over to this pane real quick. The size sets the size of your brush. So right now you can see the brush takes up pretty much the entire torso of the person here. We're going to knock that down to something a little more manageable, and you can see that it's reduced the size of that. The strength is how much of a pull we're going to get. So if we click and pull, we can see that it's a very strong pull. We may or may not want that. We can select our strength and pull our strength down, and now when we pull, you can see that it's not pulling near as much. It is making a difference, but it's not getting that really harsh pull to it. It just kind of depends on what we're going for. The next tool that's going to help drastically is the mirror tool. And what the mirror tool does is basically allows us to mirror what happens on one side with the other. So when we click on here, it gives us all of these options, and you can see as we roll over them, it gives us the plane and it shows where the mirror is happening. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to use the x-axis, so that splits the person in half. I'm going to use our Sculpt tool. We're going to increase our strength a little bit so you can see what's happening. I'm going to pull down on the shoulders here, and you can see that what's happening on the left is also happening on the right. Mudbox also gives us the ability to use layers, kind of like Photoshop uses layers. So in order to, when we're in Sculpt, in order to create a new layer, we're going to come up here to this little piece of paper, white piece of paper with a green plus. We're going to click on that. It creates a new layer. And what that does is it allows us to sculpt with our person, and let's say that we want to hide that layer. We don't want to see this sculpture, this sculpted part of this person anymore. We can simply turn that off. It's still there, just like in Photoshop, but we can hide it in case we would need to do something underneath that. The other thing we can do is we can trash this layer. We can delete the layer completely and start over with a new layer. We can create layer groups, same as in Photoshop, so we can put a whole bunch of layers in one group together, and that also allows us to hide and show the group as we see fit. And the last thing we're going to look at in this tutorial are the stamps right down here. And you can see you can select a stamp, and it gives you a picture representation of the stamp. And right here in this checkbox, we click on Use Stamp. And when we do that and we sculpt, you can see that it actually uses that stamp as part of the fabrication of the material. So let's select a different one here, and I'm going to reduce the strength a little bit so we can see it better. You can see that it's got some texture to it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to turn the stamp off and I'm going to do the same thing, and you can see the difference. So that just allows us to get some texture on our model, or our person in this case, our character, and we can use that to create some very interesting things.